Welcome back. I started sorting some of the hydraulic hoses and kind of starting to plan the routing and mock-up for mounting tabs on the loader frame for the steel lines. And I realized that some of those steel lines are damaged or pinched right off or right closed. And then I also realized that I grabbed the wrong bushings. I got 1/4 inch to 3/8, but these are actually half. So what I'm going to do today is I kind of figure that I can loader frame aside, start tearing everything apart on the top side, and I can finish welding this top frame, and then I will have space to maybe get the tractor up off the ground and do those lower skid plate tabs that I was talking about. So for now, I'm going to start doing some tear down. If you recall, I talked about being able to get a socket in these holes and these bumper brackets. Well, I had a socket that fit. I can't find it now. So if I don't end up finding what I need, I'm probably going to just take a 3/4 inch socket after I get done throwing it around and just grind it down to fit in there. Because I can use a wrench on the back side to break it loose. I basically just need to have a socket that holds those bolts in place. Seems like I had a 1/4 inch drive one somewhere not that long ago, and it fit in those holes. So if I can't find it again, I'll just grind down a 3/4 inch or a 3/8 inch 3/4 socket and use that and keep it in that handy toolbox just for this loader. Well, no luck on finding that special socket, so I'm going to make one. I've got this off-brand. It's called Metrench, and I used to use them like in high school, and I had a whole set. But I think they got stolen, and this is the last one left. So what I'm going to do is, it's actually too long to fit between the kicker brace, let's see, right there and right there, and the bumper itself, the bumper bracket. So I'm going to chuck it up in the lathe and use this high-speed grinder and cut 3/8 of an inch off. And then I'm going to probably put a extension on it in the lathe, and then just grind it with a roll-lock disc until it's smaller diameter, probably until those ribs don't show anymore, and that'll be good. So there we go. I've got it cut down to size, and it's funny because look at that, just the the same brand extension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually TIG weld that, so this becomes one tool, and then I'll chuck it up in the lathe and grind that down. I also have to take a little bit of this diameter off just to get into the hole. So like I say, this tool will just stay in the toolbox of the loader just in case it ever has to come apart. I've got another couple extensions and sockets I can use for other reasons. All right, it's a little warm still, but this is what I came up with for some magickery. I ended up cutting this off on an offset, welding it back together, grinding it, making all kinds of clearance. I probably should have just clearanced that subframe on the loader and just ground down a socket and called it good, but what's the fun in that? I had to cut and weld it, and now I can just use an extension in the back of it to hold it in place while I use a wrench on the nut side. but I quenched it in motor oil, and it was red hot when I did it, so it gave it a pretty cool black and blue effect. I think it hardened it to the point where I can use it and not be worried about it breaking. So I guess I'll see how this thing comes apart now. All right, so it came apart. That tool worked great, except I only have 2 of the 4 bolts out. And that's because once the socket clears, I don't have room to get the bolt out. So I'm gonna have to use magnets to pull the bolt into place. But I do want to point out, this is perfectly in its spot. So these bolts could easily just go right back through there if I can do this. Okay. And with this cross brace, I really like how, with everything unbolted, those pads are right where they need to be. So it does a really good job holding everything in place. So what I want to do is clamp those in position to do all my final welding, so nothing over here distorts what's going on down there. I really like how that ended up. So this whole top piece is unbolted and just sitting on those 2 pads in the back and on the jack in the front. So I'm going to see what I can do to get this all off in one piece. So when I assembled this, I put those washers on the inside. So that way I knew it was going to be snug coming apart, but now going back together, I'm actually going to be pinching those bumper brackets and pulling out on the frame a little bit. But remember when I just showed you how all of the bolts were lining up and I slid that bolt in? Well, it was still in there. So all that fighting was because one of those bolts was in place. It wasn't because the washers kept it snug. There. I like this. I could probably pop those front tires off and get right in there. While I'm at it, hopefully we can see this. If you look at that plate right there, I've just kind of been informed that these front ends are known to wobble a little bit. And you can see that it's loose. So I'll be addressing that while this is up on this big old workbench. So yeah, that looks good. All right, that's better. I got it up on this lift bench, and I pulled the front axle out so I can repair the pivot pin, but that's a job for another day. So here's what I came up with for a support. When I'm installing the mule, I have all kinds of slop, and then I'll put a nut and bolt through here on both sides. But when that's bolted together, it's going to hold this in my down position where I want it. So I won't be able to have that slop back and forth. And it's not completely structural, you know, as far as the strength of that angle iron. It's if I were to hit something and twist something, it's not going to support everything, but it'll still stabilize this, and it'll still act as a skid if I were to run something over. And most of all, without that front axle, I know that I've got plenty of droop that my axle will still be able to articulate, and that's all good stuff. Okay, so I have these arms completely welded to this mule attachment, and because I've put so much heat into both sides, this has shrunk like 1/8 of an inch. And now it won't go on. So now I've got to figure out how to separate this, spread it out at least 1/8 of an inch. I'd like to do like 3/16 or so, just to allow it to slide on and off easily and have room for paint. So I'm going to use this here Porta Power and see if I can spread this out a little bit. Hopefully it fits. There we go. So go to 13 3/4. Still nothing. Wow. All right, that's 14 inches. There, that's 13 3/8. I got it.